Today we'll learn the imperfect tense of strong verbs. First, a quick review of the last few lessons. We recently learned how to conjugate a weak verb like kaufen in the imperfect tense, and how we need to take the root or the stem of the verb, add te to all forms, and then from there add st to the do form, n to the wir form, t to the ir form, and n to the z form. With warten, a verb like warten, where the stem ends in t, or if a verb ends in d in the stem, well then an extra e is added. So we end up with these wartete, du wartetest, wartete, wir warteten, ihr wartetet, und sie warteten. So show me that you understand how to form the imperfect of this weak verb, machen, by adding the appropriate te endings. Give me the ich form. Machte, right. The do form. Machtest, sie und es. Machte, wir. Machten, ihr. Machtet, and sie. Machten. Good. But as we've been learning, in conversation this tense is rarely used. There are exceptions though, as you've learned. Here are 5 main verbs that are almost always used in the imperfect tense, even in conversations, and we learned how to conjugate them. The verb haben, to have, können, to be able to or can, müssen, to have to or must, dürfen, to be allowed to or may, and wollen, to want to. And we learned how to conjugate haben, for example, ich hatte, du hattest, hatte, wir hatten, ihr hattet, sie hatten. Haben is almost always in this tense when in the past. Können, ich konnte, du konntest, konnte, wir konnten, ihr konntet, sie konnten. And once again, with all of these verbs, you're seeing that the ich form is the same as the sie and es form. Notice that the umlauts disappeared, as we've learned, in this tense. Müssen, same thing happens with müssen. Ich musste, du musstest, musste, wir mussten, ihr musstet, and sie mussten. Dürfen does the same. Ich durfte, du durftest, durfte, wir durften, ihr durftet, and sie durften. And wollen, ich wollte, du wolltest, wollte, wir wollten, ihr wolltet, und sie wollten. So how do strong verbs work? Well, they're a little different. Let's take a look at one now. The verb gehen, to go. You know, even in English, gehen is a strange verb. It's to go, but the past tense is went, W-E-N-T. Where do we get the word went for a verb that's go, G-O? It's an irregular verb, even in English. As a matter of fact, a lot of the same verbs that are strong or irregular in German are also irregular in English in the past tense. Interestingly enough. Well, German and English are Germanic languages after all. Anyway, here's what happens. With gehen, the hard part, like I said, is that in this new past tense, the narrative past, each strong verb has spelling changes of some sort. Sometimes just a vowel, sometimes more. For example, to put gehen into this tense, you have to know the irregularity is this. Ging, G-I-N-G. Where did ging come from? Well, where did went come from in English? But once you know that ging is irregularity, then the rest of the conjugation is easy. It's du gingst, adding the st. Ging, the ich form and the sie and es form are the same. Wir gingen, ihr gingt, and sie gingen. So notice that the strong verbs do not take the te endings that the weak verbs do. But once again, like I said, the ich form is the same as the sie and es form, and the wir form, of course, as always, is the same as the z form on the right-hand side. From now on, when I introduce a new verb to you, I will give you the sie and es form of it in the present tense and in both past tenses, so you know whether it's a weak or strong verb, and then you know how to use it. For now, there are 2 main strong verbs that are almost always used exclusively in this new tense, the imperfect, even in conversation when referring to the past. The first one is sein, the verb to be. Repeat the forms after me. Ich war, du warst, war, wir waren, ihr wart, und sie waren. And again, notice no te endings like the weak verbs. All we do is add st to the do form, en for the wir form and the z form, and then t for the ir form. Now, this might look familiar to you. We've used it before when talking about days of the week, when we said things like today is Sunday and yesterday was Saturday. So we already used this verb. We had to, because when using sein, it's almost always in the imperfect tense in the past. The other past tense of this verb is so much more complicated that these forms are almost always used instead. The other strong verb that is almost always in the imperfect is werden, to become or to get, in the sense of like to get cold, to get tired, etc. Werden. And we've learned this verb in the present tense, but what about the imperfect? Well, here it is. It's ich. Repeat after me. Ich wurde. Du wurdest. Wurde. Wir wurden. Ihr wurdet. Sie wurden. Since the ich form wurde ends in an e, well, the wir form, all we had to do was add n, not en, because the e was already there. Anyway, the verb werden is almost always used in the imperfect tense in conversation, and even in written forms, frankly, most of the time. So, here are two words you've already learned. The word tired, müde, and the word angry, zornig. We're going to use them again. Repeat these sentences coming up that have these two words in it and the words sein and werden in the imperfect tense. Say, I was tired and I got angry. Ich war müde. Ich wurde zornig. Say, you were tired and you got angry. Du warst müde. Du wurdest zornig. He was tired, she got angry. War müde. Sie wurde zornig. We were tired and we got angry. Wir waren müde. Wir wurden zornig. You, informal plural, were tired and you got angry. Ihr wart müde. Ihr wurdet zornig. And finally, say they, or perhaps you, formal, were tired and got angry. Sie waren müde. Sie wurden zornig. Good job. Auf Wiedersehen.